Your third bill of the day, Representative Hussein, is House File 2123. Would you like to move your bill to be in front of the committee?
Yes, Chair, I would like to move.
The bill is in front of our committee, and the motion will be to lay this over. And Representative Hussein, I believe you have an A3 amendment. Could you briefly describe your A3?
What was the A3 amendment? To report.
Representative Hussein.
It's an amendment that we try to reshape the bill to make sure that the landlord is opportunity to report the credit.
Any discussion to the A3? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The A3 is adopted. Representative Hussein, to your bill as amended.
Thank you, Chair. House File 2123 is more. It's a bill that will give people who rent in the state of Minnesota to give a credit. More than 1/3 of Minnesotans rent their home, and rent often their large monthly expensive. Yet rent payment usually do not help renters build credit. As a result, many renters, especially young people, low-income families, and a minority community, remain credit infeasibility and lack of their financial opportunity. This, if we're talking about the poverty and we want to help our people in the state of Minnesota, this is a way that we can help them build a credit. Many people do not have a good credit. They cannot obtain a good insurance. They cannot obtain to buy a house. They cannot get a credit card, or they cannot buy a car affordable. If we have a good credit, you're a good champion, and you can accomplish a lot of things. And this is what we're trying to do. This bill, many other states has done it. California has done it. New York has done it. Colorado has done it, and Washington, D.C., the capital, has done it, and give people opportunity to build their credit so they can, while they're renting, they can get some percentage of their credit to show. And I do have Samuel here who's going to testify on behalf of this bill.
Thanks. Our first testifier is Samuel Benda, Policy Entrepreneur Fellow with African American Leadership Forum. Welcome to the committee.
Oh, welcome. Yeah, Chair and members of the committee, my name is Samuel Benda. I'm a policy fellow at the African American Leadership Forum. We're a think and do tank and in the Twin City, and we're committed to advancing Black-centered solutions and building a future for Minnesota, and where opportunity and justice are actualized for all. We're here today because Minnesota renters face a basic financial injustice. Rent is the largest monthly expense for more than 1 million Minnesotans, but unlike mortgage payments, on-time rent payments does little to build a renter's wealth. Homeowners build equity every month, renters build nothing. And this has created the credit invisible class in which low-income families and communities of colors are overrepresented. Without credit, people struggle to get a car, rent a home, secure insurance, or ever become homeowners. HF 2123 is our community-driven solution. After years of listening sessions with renters, housing providers, community groups, and impacted Minnesotans, we created a simple fix. Require large housing providers to offer an opt-in option for rent reporting. The impact is real. Credit bureau like TransUnion shows that rent reporting produces an average 60-point credit increase. For many Minnesotans and renters, this is the difference between being denied or approved for things that move a family forward. And let's be clear, this bill harms no one. It's voluntary for tenants. It exempts small landlords with 10 or fewer units. It asks the state for a modest investment that returns far more, as more Minnesotans will be able to participate in the financial system. This isn't just a bill, it's an equity bill. It rewards responsibility that Minnesotans already demonstrate every month. It opens real financial opportunity for people who have been locked out for far too long. I urge you all to support HF 2123. Thank you, and Chair and members, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Next, we have testifying virtually Kaylee Mundley, Community Lending Coordinator for Exodus Lending.
Hi, Kayla Munley here from Exodus Lending. Good afternoon, chair members and members of the committee. My name is Kayla Munley. I serve as the Community Lending Coordinator for Exodus Lending. My work centers on helping people access a fair financial products. And I'm here today as both a professional and as a renter who is trying to build a life here in this community. Credit is not a luxury. It is a gateway to basic life necessities, housing, transportation, even sometimes employment. Some employers actually run credit checks now before completing an application. In today's economy, without credit, you cannot fully participate, and yet millions of renters, specifically in Minnesota, people who reliably pay on one of the largest expenses that they have, receive absolutely no credit for it. Homeowners build credit every single month by simply paying their mortgage. Why shouldn't renters earn the same benefit for paying their rent on time? Some will argue that credit cards offer an alternative path, but credit cards require credit to obtain, and they carry real risk and debt and penalty. Rent, on the other hand, is a payment people are already making. It is consistent, it is necessary, and it reflects financial responsibility. It deserves to count. Our credit system did not emerge from a neutral place. It is shaped by decades of racial and economic exclusion, redlining, discriminatory lending, and policies that blocked entire communities from building generational wealth. This bill is a modern step toward a system that recognizes financial contributions of all residents, not just from those who are already given a head start. I urge the community to support this bill. Let renters use what they're already doing to paying rent to build credit they need to move forward. It is practical, it is fair, and it's long overdue. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, and our last testifier, Cecil Smith. Welcome back.
Mr. Chair, Co-Chair Igo, members of the committee, the last time today you'll see me. Thank you for the opportunity again to testify. Again, my name is Cecil Smith. For the record, I represent the Minnesota Multi-Housing Association. First, helping renters build credit through housing payments is a concept that some housing providers choose to do voluntarily. House File 2123 is not simply creating a new opportunity for renters. It imposes a new operational requirement on housing providers that may require vendors, software integration, staff training, and dispute resolution procedures. Second, the bill prohibits charging renters for participation while requiring housing providers to provide the service. While the bill appropriates grant funding to help offset costs, the total funding will not cover the implementation and administrative costs for many housing providers. Third, and most importantly, the bill focuses only on reporting on-time rent payments, on-time payments. That creates a fundamentally incomplete and potentially misleading reporting system. If the state requires reporting only positive payments while excluding late or missed payments, the result is no longer a neutral reporting system. It becomes a one-sided data point that does not reflect the true payment record. Finally, the bill raises compliance and liability concerns. Rent ledgers often include partial payments, subsidy timing payments, payment plans, or disputes. Without clear standards and safe harbor protections for good faith reporting errors, or a mandatory system could expose housing providers to unnecessary disputes and compliance risks. For these reasons, we respectfully ask that the committee to oppose House File 2123. Thank you.
Stay there for a sec. I had a couple questions. Mr. Smith, you mentioned administrative costs. Just help me understand what those are just to have a better understanding.
So reporting to credit agencies is not free. You've got to set up a portal. You've got to set up a process where the batch reporting can then go based upon the credit reporting agency's timing of payments. I'm not particularly familiar with this. You'd need to get the credit reporting agencies here in front of you, Mr. Chair.
So it would be, I assume there is some level of reporting as it exists that some landlords utilize currently.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
so there are operators who provide this service as an amenity to their residents, or there are groups around the country who have come in and partnered on wealth building credit reporting programs to help renters, and they've formed a partnership together where they're doing that to elevate the financial life of the residents and their properties.
And just back to so you said sort of creating some sort of a portal. So that's a technical, like an IT cost. Is there a cost that to the credit agency, like you have to pay the credit agency, or is it more just the setting up this sort of portal and having that sort of IT infrastructure?
So, Mr. Chair, there is IT infrastructure, there is training, there is, I certainly know under federal fair credit reporting, just even the fact that we collect background checks and credit reporting, we have compliance just on that process alone using the background check companies, because we're actually handling credit data. So we already have an administrative cost built in and compliance cost built in just on doing background checks. To supply information to the credit reporting agencies, I believe requires fees. It requires IT requirements for secure handling of that information, and certainly training of staff to meet those requirements. But again, I would urge you to get expert testimony on the credit bureaus.
Well, it would be interested to, if sort of the concern is the amount of expense for admin cost, would appreciate more specific information at some point about like what those are, just to help balance that out. But any folks on the list? Representative Kozlowski.
Thanks, Chair Howard and Representative Hussein for working on this bill. Credit invisibility, that's a word. I appreciate you sharing that. Growing up in a household that we didn't have no bank, credit cards are a problem, let alone buying a home. So I just wanted to thank you for the bill, and credit scores, as was mentioned by one of our testifiers, redlining, all of it was tools that were created to box Black and brown people out of our communities. And so I think it's appropriate and necessary to tackle the credit scores that were being left out of. I have a couple of questions, just kind of curious, like how this would actually work practically and how you're envisioning the grants and whatnot to roll out, kind of bouncing off of what Chair Howard was asking. Cecil's gone, but maybe you could help answer the question, or to our other testifiers, of what you've seen in other cities, states that have done this. But do you have like a ballpark of what the cost is to subscribe, as you were saying, to the credit reporting system itself?
Maybe Mr. Benda?
Okay, yeah, I can answer that. So what has been done in places like California is that they require landlords to offer the service, but then they charge roughly about $10 for that service, right? And what has come out of that is that you get some, low income renters who cannot afford that, and so they've seen a lot of problems. So what we learned from that, which is quite new, right, and they're still figuring it out. There's a lot of data that's going to be coming out pretty soon. But what we learned from that is that, okay, in order to bring more folks in, we gotta take away that financial burden, and that's why I engage with housing providers, and we talked about, okay, let's put that grants as a mechanism to try to offset those costs.
Representative Kozlowski.
Thank you, Chair Howard, and I appreciate you kind of describing this and how it's played out in California. I know I would love to see any examples of where this is done and how we could implement that here in Minnesota. Also curious, in the bill language, it talks about that a renter can opt in and out at any time, and I'm assuming that that would be online, or does that need to be in writing? And then also I'll just say, so yeah, just sort of how does that opt-in, opt-out process work? And then the second question is around the missed payment. So it says that you'll report a positive payment. But so say I'm renting an apartment, I do my payment for 3 consecutive months in a row, and then I opt out. Does that then get reported and then look like, oh, I've stopped paying my bill that could have an unintended consequence, or does that ultimately go to boost towards my credit score because I've showed I can pay my rent for multiple months?
Yeah,
Mr. Benda.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, as you know, the system we have already punishes renters for not paying on time. It could lead to eviction. Also, late fees. Those are punishments, right? So we have that mechanism. And what we're missing is that positive aspect of it. And I think it balances out if we, with this bill, because we truly believe that we have to build a system that rewards hardworking families. So that's one aspect of it. That's why. And your second question, what was the first question again?
Representative Kozlowski.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I was just asking about the repeated, making sure that if you opt in and you show a duration of you're paying your bills month in and month out, and then you opt out, that doesn't somehow inadvertently come back and have a negative impact.
So the idea of the bill is like when you move in, then the landlord will be like, well, this is an option available to you. You can choose to do it or not, right? So let's say you're in it and for some reason you want to get out of it, then you just have to inform your landlord, and then you'll be not to report, and then they will have to follow that.
Anything further?
Thanks, Chair Howard, and for that. Now, I'll just say I think this is a really important step to look forward and take into in Minnesota, and I hope that we can continue to work through some of the practical pieces of how it would roll out and make sure that as many Minnesotans as possible can take advantage. I mean, I think we all saw that the governor's budget had some dollars towards more down payment assistance. I'm excited to see the letter of support from the Ground Break Coalition that talks about bringing online 11,000 new homeowners and putting those 50,000 down payments and post payments in place. And so just anything that we can do for folks who do want to create a nest egg, to build up their credit score and ultimately move into a home and build that generational wealth, this could be a really important tool to do that. So thank you for your work.
Thank you.
And I would.
I would like to.
Representative Stein.
The other thing that I would like to echo and try to add it in, a lot of people don't believe in having a credit card or, like going into interest. This is given opportunity to build their credit if they want to buy a financial fee-based Islamic mortgage. This is how they can build to avoid for their religion prohibited, like not getting credit cards or not getting any interest. This is opportunity that they can build their credit.
And I had an additional question, and this might be for Mr. Bender or for our nonpartisan staff. But as I read the legislation, a landlord, must offer this option of having their on-time rent payments reported. But as I read this, there's nothing that would preclude a landlord from reporting late payments or missed payments in this bill. Do I have that right?
Yeah. So that portion of the language is to, because we already have a system that they do it anyway. Like if you don't pay your rent, you get late fees and you could be evicted. So this, again, is meant to create a balance, to say you have to also report
positive.
yeah.
But there's nothing in the language that says a landlord couldn't report missed rent, to a credit agency. Do I have that right?
I believe so.
Okay. Representative Dotseth.
Sure, Howard, I think you actually kind of covered a little bit about what I was going to ask about reporting of negative rent as well. But question I had is traditionally rental payments, has that typically been put on credit reports? I haven't seen that a whole lot in the past. Is that a new trend that we're looking at creating where reporting all rental history and that's part of the credit reports, or am I missing something here?
Mr. Benda?
Could you repeat the question again?
Yeah, Representative Dotseth.
Traditionally, rental history hasn't been on a credit report.
Yeah.
Is this a new trend that we're trying to enforce and create as a new process as far as for credit reporting, or what?
Yes, this is a very new policy area. What they realize is that, folks are paying a lot of their rent and not getting anything out of it. And that's a really good way for bringing folks who have been locked out of the financial system into the financial system. And you actually have private companies who are using this now as a way to offer more, give credit to, credit card to renters as well. So you have companies who are saying, okay, you report your credit to us, and then we could just report it to the credit bureau, and we'll give you some, what do you call it? Some credits card.
Representative Dotseth.
Thank you for your clarification, and I'll kind of piggyback on what Chair Howard had mentioned, is making sure that if we're reporting the good history, we also want to make certain that the negative history is reported as well, because we do not want to look like we're manipulating credit reports as well. Thank you for your clarification.
Yeah.
Co-Chair Igo.
Looks like we're all singing from the same sheet of music, because that was going to be my question as well. My big thing is, and I'm no lawyer, and I don't play one on TV, but looking at it, if we don't put into law that it would say on time and late or missed, I could see credit agencies looking at that, calling it fraudulent and not accrediting it. So I think the testifier, Mr. Smith, made a really good point that if this bill is going to move at all, we need to have credit agencies come to this committee and talk about it, because I was trying to review on my phone California's statute. California's statute does say on time along with late and missed in their statute. So I think that is going to be a critical part if this legislation is going to move anywhere, because I don't think credit agencies will be able to look at that and take it as duly noted and increase credit scores over it.
And can I?
Mr. Benda.
All the three credit bureaus do have a mechanism in which you can report rent. They all have that. And so that is why this new policy area is really building enough grounds, because they're starting to see the benefits of this.
Co-Chair Igo.
I'll just follow up. I'm not saying that credit agencies won't acknowledge it, but if the law says only good can be reported, credit agencies won't take that. You need to have the good and bad. Like, it applies for your credit cards, applies for your mortgage payments. You need to be penalized on good and bad behavior. If we create a market where we're only given the good, but not when you make bad decisions, then that shouldn't increase your credit score. And I don't think the three major credit reporting agencies will take that into mind and acknowledge what we're trying to do here in this bill.
Well,
Mr. Benda.
yeah, we do already, in the system, punish renters who don't pay on time through late fees as well as evictions. That it does go to the credit. I could tell you this personally. When I was at the University of Minnesota as an undergrad, I paid my rent on time, living at the University Commons. When I was moving out, there was some cleaning. I think when I moved in, there was a wheelchair in the closet. So I thought, well, it's their stuff. When I moved out, they billed me for that for $400. On principal ground, I refused to pay it. And I have the money, but I'm not paying it on principles. And so they were like, all right, cool. And then they sent it to the credit bureaus, it affected my credit score. It does. So that's one way right there. And there's millions of people in this state who are going through that. So we already have a mechanism in place for that.
Coach Rago?
Thank you. And so, like, respectfully, I understand your point, but they're two separate issues. What I'm trying to do is make sure that we're keeping legal precedent when we're talking about credit issues. If you create law that you only report good and not bad, credit agencies won't acknowledge that. You need to be rewarded for your good and bad behavior. If I don't pay my mortgage,
Right.
if I'm late on my mortgage, I get a ding on my credit score for that. But the law as it reads in the proposed bill, there is no reporting mechanism to ding me for being late on my rent. That's what I'm saying. I'm worried that you won't get an accredited program out of the way the bill sits right now.
I'll go. I would say I think there is a mechanism because it's not saying that folks can't, but maybe there's a way to continue working on it. But what I would say to the overall, what an important issue for us to be working on, especially if we're aiming, as I think we should be, to be reducing some of our gaps in terms of homeownership opportunities and knowing that the ability for folks to have a credit score that allows you to make that next step into home ownership. We've talked so much in this committee about that being a goal, to create pathways into home ownership. And I think Representative Hussein and Mr. Benda, you really identified a gap or really an opportunity so that for folks that are renters that are paying their rent on time, doing their work to create a path for that to be credited, for them to get more credit and have that path forward to home ownership. I think it's a really important and well thought out idea that merits this committee's attention and focus. And so thank you for bringing the bill forward. Wondering if you have any final words.
Thank you. It looks like we just keep echoes. In when people behind their rent, in 5 days they got late fees. After 5 days, 14 days, they all got an eviction letter, right? Some of the like Minneapolis or other cities within 14 days. If you don't pay it again, then you get eviction, and that's gonna go automatically on your credit. So what we're saying is, let's give opportunity for those that are paying on timely, monthly, every month, for those optional. We're not asking everyone to do so. We're giving those people that want to benefit from this program, that want to move out of from affordable housing or move out of Section 8, and they want to build their credit to buy their American dream. We're helping those people that really need it. Not a lot of people might not benefit from this program, but the people that really need it. This is a fairness, opportunity, and financial dignity, and I think this bill is simple, allows for responsibility to help and build their financial wealth future. Thank you, and I'm open to work with anyone to get this opportunity for those people voiceless that need opportunity to buy for the American dream house. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Hussein. With that, your bill is laid over.